Another question I was asked is about memorizing, because everyone asks these questions, and I think so much been asked about it, and there are lots of resources. So very quickly, what is my take on memorizing? Because some people say, well, we play, and there are gaps, and we completely can't master it. And the person who asked me about memorizing, she is quite advanced, so she was playing Rachmaninoff, one of Rachmaninoff preludes. And I would think the first thing you need to decide what quality are your strength when you remember music. How you remember music? Do you remember music with your ears, or like orally, or do you remember like page? Can you see? Do you have photographic memory? Or do you have a muscular memory? Possibly it will be several, it won't be just one. And it can be also kinesthetic, what kind of sensation you have when you play in certain piece. So you need to first find out within yourself what kind of memory prevails, memory skills prevails. There probably would be one or two. And then very clearly, when we can't remember something, it means that we have nothing to hold on to. So we need to create certain hooks. And interestingly enough, lots of people think that they need to know the theory. And this is where I think they sometimes go wrong. Because, for example, if they don't understand music theory, and I say to him or to her, okay, this is a theory, this is a chord in C major, this is dominant 7, this is diminished, this is inversion of such and such. Okay, how is it going to help you if you don't know theory? So I think that's going to be a waste of your time and extra anxiety. So theory, understanding the theory, so on the intellectual level, is very, very good if you know theory. If you don't know theory and you need to memorize something, I think you need to think what's your strongest point. And then within that, you create the hooks. So for example, let's go talk something very primitive. So that person who asked me, she knows everything in patches. And then some things she doesn't have to memorize, it stays in her. And then there are few bars, she just can't. She said it's just falling out of her head. So I would say, obviously identify these places very clearly where you have problem with the memory. It's point number one. Point number two, you identify how you're gonna address it. Are you gonna concentrate on the visual aspect, on the oral aspect, or on sensation on your fingers? So what your fingers are going to do. Once you've decided, and you may say, okay, I have two dominant sides. Again, choose just one. So for your brain, you want to give yourself something very, very simple, something primitive, like baby food, baby steps. And then what you do, you open the place, like let's open something here. Okay, we have Mozart here, we have Chopin nocturnes. Let's just open any nocturne. Okay, C minor nocturne. And then you look at the place which you don't understand. And if it's a visual place, you're really trying to use a photographic memory. If you say, my strongest thing is a photographic memory, then you just use your photographic memory. You try to look at it, then you play. So I just take the random bar here, Chopin. So then you play a couple of times, really looking. Then you close, you try to imagine the picture, how it looks, and then you play. And this is for people who have photographic memory. Having said that, in music, I wouldn't say that that's predominant side for people who are musicians, because obviously we guys, we work with our ears. So of course the melody we would remember, if we're musicians, the memory we remember. So the confusion might come in the chords, right? The harmonies. So here again, a couple of things. You can easily, if you know theory, you say to yourself, okay, so this is an inversion of 7th chord, and this is an inversion of D flat major chord, and the bass is going. And then with that, you play a couple of times, you understand, you process it with your brain, you do it quite slowly, and then it works. Another way of doing it, if you don't know theory, you just try to think, okay, what color does it have, this chord? What sensation do I have, for example? And it can be anything. There's no right answer. It's very personal to you. Or what kind of image I have, or what do I see, color, image, smell, temperature, whatever. And how does it change it now? So it's going up. So the energy is slightly elevated. Okay, so we can see. Okay, so that's the phrasing. And again, you try to play it. So what I'm trying to say, you're trying to connect yourself with what's happening there, with the story. And you internalize it. And by internalizing it, you really connect to it. And it's becoming part of who you are. And then, of course, you add the right hands. And you think, okay, when I play with two hands, do I still have that sensation of internalizing the chords, the colors? And possibly yes, then you close the music and you play. So that's another way of doing it. And what I haven't mentioned, by the way, so this is for someone who is advanced. If you started memorizing from scratch and you don't know anything about you and you just have a deadline, you have to learn the piece really, really quickly. There's one very primitive way, but I call it primitive. It's more works for like beginners to intermediate players. You just take quite a small phrase, always take a phrase because it has a logical musicality in it. And my rule is very simple. You place right hand 3 times by intensely looking into the music, especially if you don't know it. You play it 3 times. Then you take left hand, and again, you play it 3 times by really intensely looking into the score. And then you play with both hands, again 3 times by again intensely looking at the score. So your concentration level have to be 100%. Then you close it, and without analyzing anything, you just try to play it. And very likely that you will get at least 50% of it right. Sometimes you may get the whole thing right. Sometimes it could be 50%, could be 60%. And then you play it a couple of times, and then you think, okay, so I kind of know it. You open it again, and then you take a pencil. So all my scores are like marked massively. And you mark with the pencil exactly the areas where you don't know what you're doing. And in that case, when you don't know what you're doing, then you start analyzing it. And you analyzing, as I said, either what is the harmony like, or where it's going. If you don't know the harmony, what is the energy, or you do it visually. And the fourth thing I haven't mentioned is actually how does it feel in your hands? Because we very often have a muscular memory. I remember I was playing Rachmaninoff's Second Sonata, and I was on tour, and I was very, very tired. I was actually almost like exhausted, and I think I've fallen asleep during the performance. So what happened? It was about 30 seconds, quite a long time. But I remember I switched off, and then when I switched on, I saw my hands playing. So I was playing fine, because I was so well trained and my fingers just remembered, and I think my subconscious also remembered. But a lot to be said on our muscular, it's like a movement, or if those of you who dance, you know what it means. So you kind of remember the movements of your fingers. So again, if you're trying to memorize something, think, if we go to this bar, so we have that sensation of the music going in the opposite direction. And try really monitor your sensation and your physical sensation. So that would be kind of my advice. Another tip I can give you, because like in my playing I use a lot of proximals. So for those of you who don't know, proximals is the bottom part of the finger, bottom phalanx. So if we slightly engage the proximal, when I say engage, imagine someone throwing you a ball, and you have to catch a ball. So when we catch in a ball, we slightly engage in the bottom part of the finger. And so if we practice or play everything with engaged proximals, again, if you're sitting next to instruments, for example, you can try. It's a completely different feeling. So I'll just show you. So here I play without engaged. And now play with engaged. I don't know if you can hear or over the internet. Much more controlled sound, and my fingers are much more aware of what they're doing. Again, here with the chords. So when you do anything with engaged proximals, again, you have a much better chance of having a muscle memory because your body registers this in a different way. So that was my tip about my answer about memorizing music. So far there was no questions, so I'm gonna go. But if you have questions, I'm trying to be live every Thursday and talk about different things. Musical is about creativity or piano technique or piano yoga, and piano yoga can encompass physical exercises, concentration, mindfulness exercises for musicians, and just talk about, I love talking about pianos. That's one of my favorite things. And of course in London you come across so many pianos and piano manufacturers, and even different pianos within the same brand. And of course my favorite brand is the Steinway piano. And so again, if you have any questions, please message me and I will do my best to answer. And yes, if you're interested in piano yoga, there's a link on my bio, and you can check, it's piano-yoga.com for more tips. There's a piano yoga YouTube channel. But again, I'd be very happy to show you different bits every Thursday. Thank you so much for joining. Namaste, and I wish you to have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye guys.